a guarantee. I mean, we're certainly going to have very high inflation. Some people may consider it hyperinflation, but textbook, it probably won't be. But it is a real risk. I mean, it's not that there's no chance of hyperinflation. There is a chance. That chance is above zero. But hopefully the central banks will do something to avoid that outcome. But they're not going to do anything to avoid the worst inflation we've ever experienced in this country, far worse than anything that we went through during the 1970s.
Now, Peter, staying with you, I mean, we know that concerns over the stability of the dollar typically lead to increased interest in inflation hedges, especially when we're talking about inflation, hyperinflation, whatever it may be. And of course, a lot of times when people are talking about inflation hedges, they think of gold. Now, we saw gold hit $2,000 an ounce back in August 2020. Now there are predictions we could see $3,000 an ounce. Do you think that that's possible?
Well, I think we're going to go a lot higher than that. And not just gold, but lots of metals and commodities and real assets are going to see price appreciation with inflation. Of course, if there's hyperinflation, the price of all these assets goes to infinity, right? Because if the money is worthless, then it doesn't matter how much money you have, you can't buy anything. So all prices are going to be going up. But I think as a historic or a traditional form of a hedge where you don't want to be in an asset like a stock or real estate, you want more liquidity, you want more stability, and you want to own a commodity that's easy to store, I think a lot of people will be looking to gold and silver as a way to store their dry powder when they know they can't hold fiat currencies, especially the US dollar.
All right, Christine, I know when we talk about inflation hedges and we talk about gold, we got to, of course, give you your say, because when it comes to inflation hedges, JP Morgan says some institutional investors are turning to Bitcoin over gold, and billionaire investor Paul Tudor Jones says crypto is winning the race against gold right now. What's your thought on that?
I mean, it really is. I agree with him, and the market apparently also agrees. Gold is, as an investment, that hedge that against inflation would generally rise along with the rapid growth in consumer prices. But instead, gold actually lost 8% over the past 12 months compared with Bitcoin's 437% one-year gain. So in this latest note by JP Morgan, institutionals are now allocating more towards Bitcoin than gold, with investors like Kevin O'Leary saying that his crypto holdings now outweigh the allocation of gold in his own portfolio. So it's really nice to see the institutionals finally starting to appreciate Bitcoin as a store of value. Bitcoin bulls have long touted it as a hedge against inflation, and that topic is now more relevant than ever as enormous stimulus packages have kind of increased the global money supply. So again, unlike the dollar, Bitcoin and other cryptos cannot be devalued by a government or any central bank distributing too much of them. And that's why Bitcoin is the only currency that's not controlled by any centralized authority, and the supply is limited so that there can only be ever 21 million Bitcoins in existence.
Yeah. All right, Peter, final word.
Yeah, the problem with thinking that Bitcoin is a store of value or an inflation hedge is because Bitcoin has absolutely no value to store. It has no relative price in relation to real commodities or other assets. Yes, Bitcoin has gone up more than gold, but so have a lot of other speculative assets in this mania. Bitcoin is not going up as a store of value or an inflation hedge. It's going up purely as a speculative, token, just like the other 13,000 cryptocurrencies are all caught up in this mania. But once the world really is worried and looking for a safe haven or a store of value, they're going to dump Bitcoin and other cryptos as quickly as they want to get out of their fiat currencies, because none of them have any value. And in fact, Bitcoin may win the race to the bottom over the dollar or any other fiat currency. So if you're really worried about inflation and you want to store value, forget about any of the cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, and just look to real assets with real value, in particular, gold and silver.
All right, unfortunately,
I guess what is the value in gold?
Completely wrong.
Then I asked, what is the value in gold if not jewelry? We barely use any gold in semiconductors and electronics.
Well, even jewelry is more value than Bitcoin has, because you can't make any Bitcoin out of any jewelry out of Bitcoin. But gold is a metal. You may not understand this, but it's an actual metal that's used in all sorts of industries. It's the best conductor of electricity. Gold is a vital, valuable, precious metal. We've been using it for 5,000 years. So you can't simply think gold is worthless just because Bitcoin is worthless, and you want to equate the two. They have nothing in common.
And now, Peter, you know, when we talk about inflation, we've heard the Fed say it would be transitory. Then they said it would cool off this year. Now they're saying maybe it won't be until the middle of next year. It just feels like they keep moving the goalposts, so to say, over and over and over. So how can we really trust the prediction of actually Yellen or the Fed, for that matter?
Well, you can't. You have to remember that when you listen to any of these Fed guys talking, or gals, it's really just propaganda. Look back to the subprime days when Ben Bernanke was saying that the subprime problems were contained. Of course, they weren't contained, but he later admitted in an interview that he really didn't believe that himself, that he was just saying what needed to be said in order to calm the markets and kind of support the incumbent administration. So anything that comes out of the Fed is really meant to placate the markets. They're never going to admit that inflation is a problem, because it's a problem they can't solve. So instead, they're going to pretend that there's nothing to worry about. But as far as Dorsey's comments, hyperinflation is certainly a worst case scenario.